So here I'm in the car trying to set up, I guess install the actual mirror. So I did remove the mirror from my Honda 2002 Accord. There it is, removed. That's it. Anyways, this is the bracket that it comes with for the Honda. So you have to find which one works for your car. And this one actually slides into place right there. And then I locked it into place. And then the back of the actual dash cam will slide into that, and then you tighten it right there. So let me get that handled. Just got it set up, and there, as you can see, the plate and the actual mirror are now installed, and I tightened it. So it's a pretty nice, I guess, setup. And there the wires are coming out of the top, as they're supposed to be. Now I can adjust the mirror as need be. Now it's like a factory mirror. Pretty nice. So right now I've attached this power for the mirror. Right now, this thin one right there that you see is for the GPS. And here are the cables that come sticking out. I was confused at first, but now looking at them, that should fix some of my confusion. So to clear it up, these two little, this yellow wires for the always on, the B plus or B positive of the car, so the battery positive. The red one's for the accessory, and then this black one is for the ground. Comes with a nice little hook to ground it into one of the nuts where the fuse box is. So this camera should be always on. I think it should always get power, but they say that it shouldn't go below 11.7 volts, so your battery shouldn't drain. And what they did is, I guess, tap into a fuse like this, so you don't have to use a fuse to tap. But I was worried, thinking, how could it draw enough power by doing like a fuse tap like this, without having a supplemental fuse there. But what these little caps are, is I guess a fuse for the dash cam itself, in order to protect the cam and the fused item in the fuse box. So there we go. What is that? That is a 3-volt fuse for the always on, and then for the accessory one, it's another 3-volt fuse. So I guess those are ones to replace in case they burn out. But that's cool that they do that. So I was confused at first. I thought you just had to plug them in and it would tap into the power, but what would happen if it drew too much? And each one of these are 10 volt, I believe. Yeah, 10 volt. So I think you just plug this into the 10 volt fuses and it should work fine. And this last thick one is for your dash cam, or your rear cam. So this you'd plug into the rear cam, and then you'd wire that up to the back of your car as you need to. So I'm going to plug these in right now to 10 volt fuse slots, and I think it should be okay. So I just finished wiring it up, hardwiring it up. So for the B plus, or the always on, I had a 10 volt fuse right here. So I just attached it right there. That 10 volt fuse was always on. I think it was for like the license lights or something. For some reason it's always on. The license and some small light. And I plugged it into that one. And then for my accessory, I had to cut the attached fuse, the 10 one, because I didn't have any extra ones near here that I could use. And I just wrapped the wire around this 20 volt, or this 20 fuse right here. And that one's for like the rear car windows. So those will only be on when the car's on. So that's what you want. The red wire is supposed to be for accessories, which means when the car is in accessory mode, those instruments should work, which is this one. And this one would be like where it's always getting power. So I used a multimeter in order to check that. And then I attached the ground back there. I clamped it into a metal screw, which is attached to the metal bracket back here. So that should be grounded properly. And then I have this leftover attachment for the rear view camera. So I'm going to have to wire that up, this pillar, in order to get it to the back. But it worked. It powered on after I did that. But so far it seems to be working pretty good. So here we have the X1PRO. It's off. I'm doing this at night because I can get a good clear image of the actual display. In any case, the settings run down and the features. So when you tap it, or when it's on, when it's hardwired on correctly, your mirror is always going to be on. This is always going to be on. So you tap it, you'll see a video feed. You want to switch to the rear video feed, hit the rear button right there. It's the car behind me. You can also see how good the night vision is again compared to outside with this camera. Doesn't look like that. And switch back. And when you tap, you get your menu at the bottom right there. This lock button, that's basically to lock the current video file that's playing. That way you'll never lose it. It'll be in your lock section. This camera is for a picture. This one, like I said, is to switch front and back view when you want. And so when you're driving, say you tap the display, if you want to see the rear at all times, you can see that. If you want to see the front at all times, whenever you tap it, you'll see that. This is the stop the recording button. It's always recording when it's turned on. And this is the power button. I'll get to these after I'm done with showing the main ones that aren't grayed out when it's recording. So there's no actual physical button on this, but when you tap it once, you get like the dashboard or the driving mode. And when you tap again, you'll get back to the showing off the video feed. But if you want to turn off the entire display, say you just want it to be a regular mirror, hold it down for 2 seconds, turns it into a mirror. Tap it, you're back there. Hold it again, 2 seconds, turns into a mirror. And if you want to get into these settings, you press stop, it stops recording, the red light goes off, and you can view all the video files that you have right there. Scroll through them, play them, hear them also if you have audio on, but you still can't scrub through them, which is unfortunate. And get the AV files, so front and back, as always. And then this tab is for your locked files. I have none, I haven't locked any. And this is for the pictures you take. So very simple. Playback settings. Hit stop again, and you want to go into the actual settings. There we go. So here you can see your storage space, so how big your card is. Hit it, tells you what's taking up what, and you can format your card there also. Lane departure warning system, if you want it on or off. It should work at, when you're going 40 miles per hour or more, that's the only time it'll work. So basically like on highways, or if you're speeding on a regular street. Highways is probably the most important place, so if you want that on, it'll beep if it thinks that you're veering off of the lane. It uses the camera to check. Speed, if you want miles per hour or kilometer. Driving mode, I have it on. So driving mode on, basically if you want your dashboard to come up after a minute, driving mode off. If you want the video feed, anyone that you pick, to be on at all times. I have it on because I don't want the video feed there unless I want it for a specific reason, if I'm driving somewhere dark, which I rarely am. But I basically want the dashboard to turn on in about 1 minute. And then if I want to turn that off, I'll just turn it off manually to turn off the entire display. So that's driving mode, date and time. You check your date and time. You can set it to GPS or manually. I have a GPS set up, so it's always going to be correct as long as your GPS is connected and working. Resolution, change it to 1296p or 1080p. Loop recording, the size of your loops, video loops. So I have it at 1 minute. G sensor, basically if you were to get into a fender bender or some type of accident enough to jar this display or jar the camera, it will save that video file. It should lock the video file. So on low, it's going to take a pretty significant one. On high, it should take I think a little bit lighter one in order for it to register, or you could have it off completely, so it's never going to save it. Parking mode, that's basically, since this one's hardwired automatically, it's basically always connected to power. And if you want, you can have parking mode on. So basically if someone were to tap your car, hit your car enough to trigger the sensor, it will start recording for, I think it says 3 minutes, for a certain amount of time. It's in the manual. A certain amount of time it'll record and then stop recording. So if you have it on low, it's gonna go depending on that sensitivity, low or high. But when you switch to those, it's going to drain a little bit more power because it's going to be always on, but it should have low voltage protection, so I don't think it'll drop below 11.7 volts, your car battery, so that should be good. Volume, the loudness of your bleeps, got it on low because it gets a little annoying. I wish you could turn it off. LCD brightness, auto or manual. Manual, you'd have to hold and swipe on the video feed and it'll lower or brighten it. Auto, it's always just going to adjust it depending on the actual ambient light. Languages, different languages if you want to set it up as. There, parking lines, so if you want your parking lines on for the rear camera. GPS info tells you your GPS longitude, latitude, which satellites are connected and the strength and all that. About car just tells you the software version and website. And then the reset setup, that's if you want to reset everything to factory defaults. So you can see this is the dashboard mode. It pretty much shows your miles per hour, your compass heading, and the time. And it goes into that mode if you have it set up to be on driving mode. So this is what you see. You tap on the screen, it'll show either the rear cam, which I have right now. You can see actually how good the rear cam is. Like this street is completely pitch black. If I were to turn off the lights, it's pitch black. So with this one, without the reverse lights on, you can actually see behind you pretty well. And if I were to go into reverse, this is what you see in reverse. It drops the view down a little bit, and you can see a lot. You can see a lot behind you, which is important. And you see pretty low to the ground as well. Okay, so if I go back into drive, it switches back to the higher up reverse view. And again, I can switch between these. I can adjust my angle per se, so I can see all the way down if I wanted to for some reason behind me at all times, or further up at the sky. But I like it center. Or say if I wanted to see the front, that's my front view right now. So my headlights, the streets, so you can see how dark it is right now. If I turn it off, it's pretty much complete black. The camera matches pretty well what I see with my eye. So I guess the night vision isn't as great as the back one, but it's good enough. You can tell cars coming by, especially when you have some street lights and stuff like that. It's just a very dark street that I picked. So I like to drive with the rear view whenever I tap on it. That way I can see what's behind me. So let's show off some of the camera as I'm driving. There we go. Again, you saw how dark it was on the front view. When I showed the front view, you can see it's pretty pitch black except for the small blips of street lights, which you'll see the rear cam pick up. So this one does a pretty good job of kind of like bumping up the ISO and showing you more of what's on the street. Like it's going to look a little grainy, especially when it's very dark, but you'll be able to make out cars, make out objects, things like that. Then when you get a little bit of light, it does the graininess dissipates and it looks a little bit clearer, and the more light, the clearer it looks. But at night, when it's pitch black, you can actually make out a good deal of stuff, which is great. So say you're driving down a dark street like this one, if I were to shut off the mirror completely, behind me I can't see a thing. In my rear view I can't see a thing at all. As far as like animals or people or objects, I would not be able to see behind me. So this is good in scenarios such as dark places, driving down dark, windy roads, things like that. The rear view helps a lot. Here you can see on a regular street, not a side street, it looks a lot better. It looks very clear. The street's kind of dark, but it's lit up and the camera can show it off really well. See, that's the main street. And now I'm going back into one of these side streets that is very dark, and you can see, you should be able to make out everything. Here you can see streets, some trees, they even look green on the camera. And if you're driving down it, like I said, here, let me switch to the front view. That's the front view. So that's with my headlights. So you can make out stuff with my headlights. I shut off my headlights, and you can see how dark it is. Besides the street lights, as you see, orange street light, pure darkness. And that's how it looks like to my eye. Turn on the headlights, you can see. Now, let's switch off behind us again, and there you go. So this doesn't really give you any blind spots as far as darkness in your immediate behind. That's about it. I hope this was helpful. I hope it showed off enough of the dash cam in order for you to get a good feel of how it works.